All right. Hello, everyone. Mark here from Herox Communications and Marketing Team. Thank you for tuning in to this very special interview on emergency preparedness for the FIFA World Cup. Today, I have the privilege of being joined by our subscribers from Unity Health and Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center to discuss how they're getting ready for the World Cup in Toronto and talk a bit about what other healthcare organizations can do to prepare. Now, to introduce my guests from Unity Health, we have Monica Jacobs, Senior Director, Enterprise Risk, Emergency Preparedness, Health Records, and Chief Privacy Officer. We have Dr. Rachel Poley, Medical Lead, Emergency Preparedness, and ED Trauma Team Leader, and Rachel Manson, Manager of Emergency Preparedness. And from Sunnybrook, we have Moira Hennebury, also Manager of Emergency Preparedness. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And now, while major sporting events, especially something as big as the World Cup, are really, cause for celebration and excitement, they do require extensive planning behind the scenes, especially for organizations who are ensuring that safe and reliable care can continue with the influx of people that are visiting the city. To jump into it, my first question is, at a high level, how are you all preparing from a risk and emergency preparedness standpoint? And Monica, we'll give you this one first, then Dr. Poley, Rachel, and then Moira.
Great, Mark. Great question. First of all, there is a comprehensive structure in place over the games. So there is coordinated planning across. Moira and her team at Sunnybrook are the medical leads, and we're very much involved from planning the exercises to CBR&E prep, sitting at the medical table. So it's a very coordinated, and I think that is what is key. The other thing is taking a look at the site of Unity itself. We have the site, our St. Joseph site, that is closest to actually the fan zone and Toronto Stadium, and our St. Michael site, which is the Downtown Trauma Center. It is actually no stranger to trauma when we take a look at some of the bigger events that happen downtown, from the Raptors Parade and others. So this was our opportunity to actually leverage on lessons learned and use FIFA actually to standardize what we're doing across the sector downtown, and how are we going to ramp up and actually sustain those that level of preparedness. And I think we've made substantial gains in the last year, and I know we've had the support from our board down and phenomenal support across all of our teams. And I think that is it, making sure that it is a unity-wide approach and a full team approach. So Rachel, over to you, Dr. Poley.
Excellent.
Thanks, Monica. Just to echo Monica's comments, I agree. We've, as the Downtown Trauma Center, we always have a certain level of preparedness and have been doing lots of mass casualty work and mass casualty planning for many years. But with Moira's team and with FIFA upcoming, we've been able to leverage some of that to increase our preparedness even further. We've been able to engage many of our clinical teams outside of the trauma teams and emergency departments, and also across the city. And so it's actually been really wonderful to see the engagement, and everybody has been really supportive and involved in this process as we've moved forward.
Excellent. Excellent. And Rachel, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, really going to echo the comments of my partners who've spoken already, but it's also about within our own departments, we've been able to kind of expand some of the planning beyond the emergency department, but also letting them sort of troubleshoot their own problems using strategy that they've already developed that I think they're now able to apply to Code Orange. So, we've had Surge for COVID, we've had, planning in other areas, and how they're able to kind of plan that for World Cup and how that would affect our site. So kind of interesting to sort of build on tools they already have and seeing them sort of troubleshoot how that would work.
Yeah. Not reinventing the wheel, but using this opportunity to expand. Yeah, excellent. And Moira, how's Sunnybrook preparing?
Yeah, so Sunnybrook, we're really proud to be named the host city medical lead for the upcoming FIFA World Cup in Toronto. And part of that contract is, just as Monica's mentioned, a regional medical operational plan, as well as a mass casualty incident response plan. But that said, preparedness for large-scale emergencies doesn't start when big events come to town. And I think my partners around the table have highlighted well that hospitals like Sunnybrook and Unity are ready 24/7 to activate a code orange response. And we routinely test that readiness through training and through exercise. And in fact, we did just have a very large scale system-wide exercise called Operation Red Card, which was a significant opportunity to verify that readiness across 32 organizations, including 16 hospitals. What really stood out to me as a leader at a trauma center is the hospitals across the system that stood up and stepped into unfamiliar and challenging roles to help preserve capacity at our adult trauma centers during that exercise. To me, that really demonstrated the strength of our regional partnerships and the ability of all of us to work as a coordinated system rather as individual organizations. And so I think that exercise really reinforced my confidence that should a major event occur during this tournament period, that Toronto's healthcare system is ready, well prepared to provide the care that our patients need.
Yeah, that's excellent, and I really love the branding, the naming around it, Operation Red Card, really theming the whole situation. Excellent, that's great to hear. And for my next question, we'll stay with you, Moira, and then of course anyone can join in to add. But what kind of cross-sector coordination is required behind the scenes for an event like this, since Sunnybrook is taking the lead?
Well, the short answer is heaps of it.
Yes.
Mass casualty incidents don't impact hospitals in isolation. And my colleagues at Unity know this just as well as I do. A successful response depends on an extensive coordination across the healthcare system and our emergency response partners. So while we were proud to take a leadership role, the work was truly cross-sector effort. And through the Ontario Integrated Health and Medical Planning Table, we would work closely with not only hospitals, but our paramedic services, our first responders, Ontario Health, the Ministry of Health, all of those people that make up that comprehensive surge system to align our plans, our roles, and our expectations of one another. And what I find really exciting, and I think Dr. Poley mentioned this, is that this really represented a big shift in Toronto and a real evolution of how we approach emergency preparedness. So rather than focusing on a single organization, we're increasingly planning and exercising as a coordinating system, which is really exciting. And I think Operation Red Card was a really great example of that, because beyond testing individual hospital readiness, we were able to verify our ability as a coordinated system to come together to ensure patients and their families' needs would be met. I think that was the most rewarding aspect for me.
Fantastic. And, I guess for my final question, let's leave our viewers with just something to take away and consider, because almost all of our viewers are healthcare professionals and emergency preparedness folks themselves. What are the top things you believe every organization should have to prepare for surges or potential code orange scenarios? And for this question, Dr. Poley, I'll go to you first, then Rachel, Moira, and we'll end with you, Monica.
Sure. Thank you. I think probably one of the most important things is to really leverage your clinical teams. At Unity, and I'm sure at Sunnybrook as well, some of the key players are the people that are working day to day in those departments and sort of understand surge capacity and how to create surge capacity when needed. And so really making sure that you leverage their expertise, find a champion, find somebody who's going to lead the way clinically to try to help develop some formalized protocols and protocols that are quick and easy to reference. We always assume it's like middle of the night, understaffed, no resources available. What is your team going to do in that scenario? And being able to have even just quick reference guides that kind of anchor people on where to start. What are my first steps? Until you can kind of get your support into hospital as needed. And I think we've done this over the last couple of months. We've really expanded on our existing protocols and really been able to sort of get a bit of a boost and increase our preparedness.
Yeah, that's excellent. And in the moment it could be so intense, right? So just having those resources that you could pull up and grab, and like you said, to anchor, to ground people, absolutely crucial. Rachel, yourself?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the short, quick references. No one wants to pull a 40-page document
Right.
at 3 a.m. and try
That's
and
right.
sort of flip through it and figure out what your plan is going to be. And I think the other thing we tried to highlight was sort of using your regular processes plus. No one wants a total separate pathway for a code that happens once every 5 years that they're not going to remember the steps. But if you are just sort of enhancing your regular processes, then that's a much easier way to sell it and way to get people to sort of troubleshoot through their problems. It also lets it be more sustainable because they'll remember sort of the pieces going forward. And I think that's also been part of our planning is, yes, we can use FIFA as leverage to get people to start thinking about their plans, but it also needs to be applicable beyond the next few weeks. Sure. And, and needs to be a process that we can do kind of going forward and not just when everyone's planning for kind of the extra people in the city and staffing up for those situations. So.
Awesome. And Moira, yourself?
Yeah, I think great comments by Dr. Poley and Rachel. I think a lot of hospitals across the system struggle because emergency preparedness and risk management teams tend to be fairly small. And this is a big hospital-wide response that we need to get people excited about. And that is it, right? It is hard to get people excited about something that might not ever happen. But I would encourage my partners across the system to find those interested and accountable leaders at your organizations. All of us have them across departments in corners of your organization, and they are interested in this work and they want to come to the table to support it. I think you need to have honest conversations about your risk and how you would respond to scenarios that happen tomorrow. That is how at Sunnybrook I have advanced every single plan so far. But I think overall, I would encourage everyone to have a strong principle-based plan that they exercise at a frequency that makes sense for their organization. And I will call out that no plan is ever perfect, but a good plan will always establish a framework, the roles and responsibilities, and those key decision-making points that every organization needs to manage a sudden onset surge safely. And again, exercising those plans is just as important. At Sunnybrook, we leverage the principles of gamification to make our training really interesting, exercising, practical, and memorable, most importantly, for our frontline leaders and our executive leaders. So I would encourage folks across the system to find those small moments of preparedness as you build out a fulsome plan. And we're really happy to share that we do have a Code Orange planning guide for exercising that allows every hospital, big or small, to design a Code Orange tabletop exercise using those principles.
Awesome. Fantastic. And to end it off, Monica.
Well, I think my esteemed colleagues have said just about everything. I think the key thing is it's not about a person in a department. We take a look at it. Our emergency preparedness department is 3 people across Unity. Our team for this was in the hundreds. And in addition to the Operation Red Card, we had a series of our own mocks and our EDs to run through. We're doing some decon dry runs today. So it is about that test, that train, that revise, and that repeat. I think it's really key. And I think it's building on that principle that we do for any kind of planned or unplanned event, using that IMS structure. It's not about a person's job title. It's about who do you need in that position at that time. And I think that's something that we have really tested and pushed. And this is something that we have actually carried on our risk register as we were coming out of COVID and the pandemic was scaling down under the leadership and governance risk. Mark, you'll know about the risk frameworks. We started putting that mass casualty and CBRNE, not so much because of FIFA, but because of the geopolitical climate. It's being prepared to be able to pivot. Things are not what they were before. Right. And under that, and that's something that really got the attention of our board and then got the support of our executive to actually invest more in the department, but not just the department, it was the program across the facility. And I think that's what if we didn't have our key contact within logistics, we'd have nothing here. We have our EVS, like the number of people in our teams, I think, is what you need to think. It's not just this high level, which sometimes we approached before when we were looking at these large scale disasters. Okay, let's get the VPs in, let's get the docs in, let's get my department in. But what about how that cascades down to the people point of care and frontline. Rachel Poley has been an advocate for the ED and what we need to do for quite some time. And we have that traction now. And what's important is that we don't lose it and that we just build on it. And I think that's for our partners, executives need to invest. Right. We need to make that case to justify the spends, because we are in a fiscally restrained time right now. But it is important. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right. Things will happen. It's your ability to respond and pivot when they do.
Yeah. Oh, powerful, powerful. A lot of great takeaways. This was an absolutely excellent response to the final question. I want to make sure that I list them all out for our readers and for our viewers. But I think that's the perfect spot to end off. Thank you all so much again for taking the time to share your insights and expertise. And of course, thank you for this important work. To our viewers, thank you for watching. We really hope you learned something valuable that you can then take back to your organization and scale at your organization. And if you're looking for more emergency preparedness resources, or just want to get in touch with HEROC to discuss, we'll have links and information below this video for you. And that's all for now. Please enjoy the World Cup, and until the next one, take care.